Welcome back to Weekend Walkabout in our gardens and yours virtually.
This is Native and Natural Groundcovers, Chapter 2, your choices in ground covers.
We're coming to you from GardenAtoZ.org. I'm Stephen.
And I'm Janet. That's us.
That's
and we're monitoring
our
superhero moderating the chat is Sonia, our daughter, great gardener, but also a professor at a university and has answered every question about the technicalities of doing this kind of meeting. She's a wonderful thing. Chat with her if you've got a question for us or if you have a question about how this meeting is running.
We've been writing for a long time, going on 40 years now.
And the more that we talk to people and take questions from people, the more that we learn in finding out answers, and the more that we realize we need to write these things down so that we can all keep turning information back and forth to each other. So join us at GardenAtoZ.org sometime. Click the What's Up. That's our news section, and we've got literally thousands of articles there. Yeah. With us today is Cheryl Bennerup, who has thousands, we're going to go millions, thousands of species, millions of plants over a lifetime of a growing for a nursery. She had a nursery in Michigan. She eventually moved to the east. She's in Connecticut now. And that's all she's done her whole life is nurture and grow plants. Well, I can't say that. She's a great cook too.
Yes.
But this is the house.
Great to be here.
Yeah.
She recently retired from this house, which was surrounded by huge gardens. You're looking at a formal garden over the lower left and out into the opening acres of natural gardening, just like acres of plants growing out of nurseries. Yeah. So she's going to help us with your questions about ground covers because we're going to let this go where you want it to go. And I put that picture in by mistake. Sorry.
Okay.
Where the outline that we're following on pages 2 and 3 is just lists of plants. Now you can download that on our website under the webinars tab on audience materials. And it works like this. It's a list of first the small evergreens that are under 8 inches. And the native species are written in bold so that you can tell if you're interested in growing primarily natives. Natives, as per our last chapter, are the things that were here before the Europeans got here into the North America. We have a 0 for as in a sun for requires full sun. 1 dot is part shade, 2 dots is full shade. A slash between the 0 and the dot means it's best in full sun if the 0 comes first, but it can do well in shade. And the other way around is better be in the shade, but it can handle some sun.
And the hashtag is hopefully deer resistant.
Hopefully, yeah.
But
in our experience, we haven't yet had them eat snow in summer. And we haven't yet seen them eat barrymore. They'll taste a whole lot of things, especially if they're new to that particular herd of deer. But there's not a lot of them that are actually not edible to the deer.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do now is forget the little blue numbers. They mean nothing to you. They mean to us. They're our jump. We'd like to hear from you. What do you want to hear about? You want to hear about the small ones that are evergreen, the small ones that are deciduous, the ones that are taller. You pick a name and let us know what we want to talk about.
Oh, pardon me, excuse me. Yes, we have some requests. RK in Michigan is curious about Bunchberry, Cornish canadensis.
Okay, let's go to Bunchberry, one of our favorite natives. It is a dogwood. It's a woody plant.
It's a dogwood. It's a dogwood.
Yeah, it's a dogwood that runs along the ground.
The first time I saw it, I said, "What's that dogwood branch doing down there?"
Yeah, with the white flowers fading here. Well, the white bracts fading here. Yeah. The true flowers are in the center and make those little red berries. So later in the summer, you've got little sparkles of red. And this is just laying on the ground. There it is, running like strawberries.
It looks a little bit like the strawberry.
Except it's woody and it's evergreen, so it's there all year long. And it is not a particularly thick ground cover. You can see that there's places where there's other things that have come up.
The sedges.
I see some beggar's ticks in that brown leaf that's right there. So you do have to keep it weeded. And it is a plant. It is a native plant. It likes moist, loamy soil and is better and more acid than not. It's not exclusive. I've seen it growing in soil that I know is alkaline to above 7, but it is a wonderful native plant to have and a very pretty thing to look at.
Yeah, and it does take a little bit of time to establish itself, but it grows.
Yeah, and it is a vining tendril. It's grown right up over this log. Okay, take us back, Steve. What else do we have?
Okay, John and Donna are curious about false rock cress. I see rock cress on the list, but false rock cress?
Oh, we don't have pictures of false rock cress, but go to the pictures of rock cress and we'll show. We have rock cress, which is Erebus, and false rock cress, which is Aubrietia. And this is actually Aubrietia, Stephen. Yeah,
I was going to say.
This is false rock cress is a carpet evergreen, kind of a fuzzy leaf, little tiny leaf, but a fuzzy leaf. Very pretty in the springtime, and good at covering the ground as long as every once in a while you cut it back. It's like lavender and candy tuft and the rest of those that needs to be cut back. False rock cress, and this is also false rock cress.
I get the two confused all the time.
Aubrietia, named for Aubriette, Aubriet, Aubrietia is and rock cress, Erebus are both members of the mustard family. They got the 4 petals on them.
Yeah.
And yeah, these are all false rock cresses.
So
Well, both of them are good ground covers if they've got some sun. They need to have, they can't do in the shade, and very good low plants to have. Pretty too. There we go. There's regular rock cress. I think rock cress, Erebus, is only white and a pale pink. Cheryl, do you know?
Yeah, I can't think of a one that would be the there's a variegated one, but that also is the Aubrietia, not.
And this one, and
Yeah,
this one is kind of this one is kind of showing where you would grow it. It's growing with a sedum in the sun, near the pine. It's not going to go very far into the shade.
It doesn't go too far back.
And the spring bloom is all that you get in terms of color, but very nice low plants. I think the Aubrietia Sonia has, she's probably monitoring the chat and I shouldn't be interrupting her, but Sonia has false rock cress and I think it's lost it out to the juniper, the creeping juniper. And
yeah, the juniper and the thyme are like, you're cute. It pops up here and there. But it is an accent rather than a cover at this point.
Yeah,
It behaves real well with Phlox subulata. I know we had the 2 planted and intermingling.
Creeping fly, and it brings that other range of colors because the phlox doesn't have that jewel tone that the Aubrietia has. Okay, take us back. What else have we got here? I saw.
Actually, rug juniper had been a request from Anne. I guess
love rug junipers. I am a perennial person, but I love rug juniper as a ground cover. Now, this is any of the low junipers work to cover the ground.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that if you take some of that juniper out after it's been there for 25 years, that ground is so clean underneath there. Nothing, seedling, a lot of times you clear grass out and stuff sprouts up right away. Boy, it is just a great bed underneath there. But the rug junipers I like to use are things like Wiltonii, blue rug juniper. I mean, they're just flat on the ground.
Flat, they spread out so nicely. They send their sprays out. Some of them hold their color really well in the winter.
And these we walk on. I have to say that the rug junipers that we put at Corey's house, which I think are coming up here, the kids walk all over that.
Yes,
and
that one does get walked on pretty well.
The ones up on Brockway Mountain, the native ones get walked on pretty good. So this is a variegated rug juniper. It's a gold. It's called Mother Lode. And like many of the variegated plants, like that variegated rock cress that Cheryl had mentioned, they don't grow as vigorously as the all green ones.
No.
So this one is that's actually Anemone blanda, the wildflower called windflower. It's a bulb that comes up and then it goes away later on. The anemone has managed to seed itself into there, but pretty much else it's going to take care of itself. It won't stand up to that evergreen euonymus behind it.
And the yellow doesn't seem to do quite as well in absolute hot sun in the middle of the day.
Yes.
Type thing.
Yeah, so this is the garden at my son's house where we put 1 rug juniper here on the end and 2 rug junipers beyond there. Just little bitty, they were 1-gallon pots. And in 5 years' time, they covered the ground. And the whole idea there is for them and the sedum. You can see the sedum yellow in there, a sedum angelina. That's what's going to cover the ground. And they have, this is from a couple of years ago now, they have now moved over and just about squeezed out the coreopsis that's under the butt of the bird.
Oh, this,
Coreopsis.
yeah.
They've
this-
just about squeezed out the coreopsis, and they've squeezed the lycnus that's blooming red there, and the dianthus right to the edge.
Mhm.
And the kids do walk across those all the time. So maybe red juniper, it's one of the reasons I like it so much. But you start them in a clean bed and keep it cleaned out around them. We're using them here. We intend to cover about, must be about 300 square feet with red juniper
Mhm.
in the long run at our place.
Really like it.
Okay, following on from your discussion about ostrich fern earlier on, Gretchen's curious about possible fern replacements for ostrich, and Shelley would like to know that as well as a bit more about maidenhair. So maybe you could go to the maidenhair fern and talk a bit about fern replacements generally.
That's going to be on page. Where did I put the maidenhair fern? Oh, the taller stuff.
All I know is that it's there. I checked to see that it's there, and then I didn't note where.
This one.
Yep. So replacements for ostrich fern, not maidenhair fern.
Mm.
They're, well, maybe you've seen it do differently, Cheryl, and that's why it's really good to have more people here and grown in more.
Oh, I would agree. I don't think so. I was thinking Dryopteris
The cinnamon
Cinnamon
fern,
fern.
cinnamon fern.
instead of cinnamon fern. It could, I
Oh.
mean, if they wanted to stay within the fern family.
The Dryopteris, the whole bunch like lady fern and leatherwood
Fern
fern.
and-
That's what we're, no,
yeah,
those are
maidenhair.
Adiantum.
I don't know ferns.
Dryopteris, yeah.
And then there's brilliance. They get a nice color in the fall.
Yep, that's right.
That's,
They do too,
you
yeah.
know, again, the cinnamon fern and whatnot.
Right,
Uh,
but they don't
dry
grow
off.
by runners, they're clump formers.
Right,
Right.
right.
Yeah.
And so to spread as a ground cover, you need to have some moisture under there because all ferns at some point during their life have to swim to fertilize the next or to become the next generation. So if you were going to use a Dryopteris, you'd put as many clumps out as you need, or you would make sure that you keep the area moist so that they would spread out a little bit.
But I think it would be better than the maidenhair.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
maidenhair
Yeah.
lets other things get into it,
It's
and it's slower to spread.
it's delicate.
And sometimes
comparatively.
in some gardens where we've put it, it loves it and it becomes a fairly dense mass. And in other places, it just says, no, there's
Just
something
does
about this
this,
place
or
that we
just
don't
kinda
like.
Sits.
And then the Christmas fern might work real well.
Sure, because it's evergreen, yeah. And
Right.
I'm
I'm
used to,
trying to think of the botanical and I can't.
it's
right
got a
off
great
the
name,
bat.
something acrosticoides.
Right, right.
Yeah, Polystechum acrosticoides, something like that. Yeah, Christmas fern, because it's evergreen. And there's a whole, I didn't really realize how many relatives of Christmas fern there are.
Yeah.
Some of them much better in dry. I am here to tell you that ferns are still filed under F
Yeah.
in most of our files because there's just so many
Yeah,
of them.
and
It's a
they-
whole nother world.
You could walk through a fern garden,
Yeah.
just like a hosta garden, and just see different one after different one after different one.
Yeah, the ethereums like painted fern. There are a lot of varieties. There's this one, there's a taller one called Ghost, and there's more,
Oh,
more,
yeah,
more
they've
purplish
really-
ones. And so I would have to say we get into that. But Christmas fern and the Dryopteris, leatherwoods, lady ferns, good plants to put out there.
Okay, next up, we have Nancy curious about pig squeak.
Pig squeak. So we're in, we have to go back.
Taller.
Sorry. Pig squeak. Where did we put the pig squeak? There it is.
Where?
Right there.
There. 308.
We like pig squeak.
Yes.
We first grew pig squeak because pig squeak. I mean, with a name like pig squeak, and we had two
Yeah.
little kids. You rub the leaf and it's a leathery evergreen, and it will squeak on the leaf. You got to do it just right. It's kind of like making farting noises with the tall sedums leaves. You got to know how to do it.
Yeah.
But it's an evergreen that loses, like Lenten rose. The leaves are there until the next spring, and then they die back.
And then they flap off.
We've actually clipped this one back to take its old leaves off before it bloomed. But I think I see an
That's
old
one
leaf
right
still
there.
sitting there.
Yeah.
But it gets purpley in the winter time. Oh,
What? That's
I-
all?
I am sorry.
Ooh.
Sorry, Steve. He takes such beautiful pictures of things, and then I X things out without thinking. It turns purple in the wintertime. And it grows like an iris does. It's a rhizome just below the surface. And I've had people say, oh, it doesn't grow well for me. It needs to be not fertilized heavily, is what we found, or else that rhizome spreads out and there's these gaps between plants and it doesn't become a good ground cover. But we've seen this solid at the Royal Botanical Gardens in Hamilton underneath the Scots pines.
And then we saw the one in
Montreal.
Okay. Okay.
Underneath evergreens. We also, one year, they some builder did a building right down by where one of our main routes, Telegraph, kind of like 1A in Boston. Telegraph Road crosses 2 expressways. They built this real estate office and paved the parking lot and had 5 islands out in the parking lot, and they planted them with pig squeak. I went, what are they thinking? That belongs underneath my. I can't tell you how beautiful and how full of pig squeak was, because nobody fertilized it and caused it to do that. So I think you need to be a little mean to pig squeak. It does get a bloom on it. A tall stalk comes up from each cluster and opens some pink flowers, which is.
Red Beauty is a nice one. Red Beauty has a lovely deep red stem and then a red flower to it. And
Right.
that's one of the more popular ones.
And there are different species. This one is a cordifolia. There's also crassifolia, where the leaf is a little bit bigger and a little less evergreen. And I've seen a cute little bitty one now called dragonfly, maybe. Just it's got little leaves and little plant, but just the straight species cordifolia, which is on our list, is what we'd be looking for. Sorry, we didn't have more pictures of that one.
I think you have to take a trip to Montreal and get the picture under the tree.
Okay.
That sounded fabulous.
Oh
The
my
leaf
gosh.
was, Cheryl, the leaf was that big. The
Stop.
leaf was
Wow.
huge.
Stopped Steve dead in his tracks. It was one of the crassifolias. He said, okay, we're gonna go back to doing more pig squeak. I said, okay, all right, well, and thank you, because I forgot to put that one on the list when we got back.
Okay, next up from both Sue and Susan, they'd like to hear about hens and chicks.
Okay. Semper Vivum, always living. Semper Vivum,
Always.
always living, evergreen.
That-
So many hens and chicks, and very popular anymore. Succulents are with
So,
the new
Yep.
gardeners coming up, and with roof gardeners. Now, Cheryl, you can talk about hens and chicks, right?
Oh, they are the cutest things. They are practically indestructible. They fall off. If they fall off or you have somebody accidentally hit it with the weed whacker, oh, it won't matter. They will take off just at wherever they fall. They're adorable, though. We grew over 160 varieties and great pictures. You've got great pictures there showing the colorations, the fringe on the edges. They behave nicely together. They can take a lot of abuse and keep going. You can't really walk on them, but
I like that their name, Semper Vivum, always living, Tectorum, actually translates as the house leek of the roof.
yes.
That's what the
And you
name
see
means.
them in Scandinavia on roofs planted, and yeah, the old thatch roofs, the old sod roofs. Oh yes, they house leeks. They have them on their roofs.
And Sonia, if you're not too busy right now, she might be able to comment on this little one sticking out right here and what she used to do with those.
Yeah, I was in charge of making sure there were hens and chicks in the entire yard, because I would kind of pick them up and I would seat them. They seemed lonely sticking out like that. So, and then I'd walk somewhere else and tuck them in somewhere else that I thought looked cute.
We found hens and chicks everywhere in the yard because Sonia was out plucking them. They didn't have to have any roots on them. She just plucked that piece off and stuck its little neck into someplace else, and boom, there'd be hens and chicks growing someplace else.
They are really phenomenal plants, and well,
So that was me.
I'll be in. I have a chance to go to Betty Ford Alpine Garden. I expect I'll see a few of them still.
They can't stand up to grasses though. They, you know, if there is grass there, that was the one picture where the grass was there. They were doing great in the stones, but grass will creep in between them and wipe them out. So they're not a great ground cover unless you've got a sunny
Good
area
edge.
with that you know are not going to be seeded into by a bunch of taller plants.
So Sunny, so Judith was just clarifying, how do hens and chicks do on house strips with shade? They want the sun.
Yeah.
They do want the sun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, excellent. Next up, Nancy G is interested in lungwort. Specifically, she can't get it to spread. So maybe some tactics for lungwort.
Wait, lungwort won't spread. My goodness. So we call it Bethlehem sage. There it is, top of the list. So the lungworts are great plants. I love lungworts. And they won't spread. Oh, okay. This is probably a real good one to be showing you. So Jack did most of the clearing there. They cleared out bushes and stuff, and then we helped clear out the rest. And then in order to make the beds clean, he went through regularly and sprayed and killed everything that was in there. In that place, and with the heavy mulch, seeds don't grow well. Even without the heavy mulch, with the Roundup residual in the soil, seeds don't grow well. And lungwort spreads by seeding itself. We don't have a picture of it doing it. We do have a lady's mantle picture of it doing it, but when it finishes blooming, that straight up stem
Then flops.
lays down and drops seed at the advancing edge of the pulmonaria. And you need to let those seedlings come up. That's where the hundreds and thousands names come from. So the chances are good that you're not a good seed bed for the pulmonaria, and you either need to clear some mulch away, or if you've been using herbicide regularly, stop using the herbicide for a couple of years.
No pre-emergent, no herbicide.
Yeah, pre-emergent. That's a herbicide, you guys. People don't think of preen as a herbicide, but it's a herbicide. And if you spread that regularly, it builds up. It's true what they say, that there's no residual activity once it gets mixed in, but it binds to organic matter. And every time it gets moist, it dissolves into the water, and there you've got a level that's not going to kill your established plant, but will kill a seedling as it sprouts.
Yep. And I don't think anybody deadheads them, but if anybody deadheads pulmonaria, they won't spread either.
Yeah. So here it is, year 2 versus year 1. And now it's all the way back into the shrubs because we got them to stop using preen.
Yeah.
And the rest of the stuff in there.
Very cool.
Okay. All right. Next. Go ahead, Cheryl.
Sorry, Sonia. Would you maybe a bit of moisture just for a period of time if they don't get enough moisture?
Yeah, especially post bloom, when they're looking a little ragged and who's looking at them, but post bloom, when the seeds are forming, would be a good time to do it. Pulmonaria, lungwort, or Bethlehem sage, it has a reputation of being good in dry shade, which it is, but it can mildew if it's dry constantly.
It mildews.
It mildews and the leaves die back. So yeah, you might need to put it in a little bit more moisture. Go to the big leaf forget-me-lot. You'll get the blue color. They're much better where it's drier. Big leaf, the Brunneras.
They handle the dry really well.
Yeah, they'll melt out. They'll lay down like a big sheepdog, conforming itself to the floor space that it's on when it's really hot, and you'll feel sorry for them, but they'll pick right back up on their own. Yeah,
and they really spread.
Donna is just chiming in to say, are there newer varieties of pulmonaria that are sterile?
Boy,
I don't know that.
I don't know.
All right, excellent. That's a threefold stumper. Not bad, Donna. Not bad. And actually, Donna's next on the list. Donna's asking about snow on the mountain, and Marvin's asking about snow in summer. And he's curious: is that the same thing? Is this the same plant? What's going on here?
We'll do snow in summer first, since it's right in front of us, and then we'll go to snow on the mountain. Snow in summer is an evergreen gray plant. There it is, just planted, and there it is the next year. It's a woody subshrub like lavender and candy tuft and thyme and the rest of that. But it happens to be in a place that is part shade. Out along the walkway there is sunny, and as you come to the left of the screen, it's shady. And I use that ground cover where we want light gray, but we have to cross that line between sun and shade. Blooms white once a year. But it's there, and evergreens are great for covering the ground at that time of year. So that's snow in summer, Cerastium. And there it is. It's our waterfall in our faux pond there. I'll go back to the list and then we gotta go. a couple
It does nice on rock walls and cascading over. We've done that for some people here
Bishop's
in Connecticut with the snow and Cerastrium, snow and summer.
It used to be more popular than it is now. I have a
Mhm.
hard time finding it now. In fact, I got pieces of it because it roots where the creeping subshrub hits the ground. I got some pieces from Pam's garden last year because I said I like that plant and it's just not featured very often anymore. Doesn't have a showing of flower perhaps. Now bishop's weed or gout weed or snow on the mountain. Bishop's weed and gout weed is all green. Snow on the mountain is white edged bishop's weed. And it is a rampant spreader. And most people who have dealt with it and are trying to grow a perennial garden are right now leaning back going, keep it away from me. I don't even want to talk about it.
They may be putting up their crosses.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah,
There's no question that the fresh new growth and the variegation is beautiful.
But
But-
we're not fond of it for trying to keep it contained, trying to it's not our favorite ground cover. We put it in a place where we don't want it to fight with anything else.
It also gets leaf spot really easy.
Where it crosses the line into the sun, you're liable by August to have it all browned out. Now this is the straight species, not the variegated one, and it's in bloom. It's a member of the family with dill and parsley and whatever, so it's got that umbel of white flowers.
And as fast as the variegated one spreads,
This is much faster.
faster.
And when the variegated one reverts to green, so it gets a shoot that's all green, that goes faster.
Then you
and
could
takes
lose the variegated too.
Yeah, and there is the all green one, trying to crowd out a ligularia at a client's place. Not going to work because the ligularia is vigorous enough and tall enough that it gets above it. But it's done a pretty good job of killing the irises that are in there and tries to kill the daisies and mixes it up with things. But it's a very good ground cover that'll cross the line from sun to shade if you don't mind taking the chance of burning it out.
Next up is Judith asking about Myrtle.
Here, Myrtle, we called it Binka, we called it Myrtle. Where did we put it? I'm sure it's on the list. I remember putting it on the list and there it is.
It's a wonderful plant and it comes in a lot of different flower bloom colors.
Right, there's kind of a reddish violet. There's a purple violet. There's a red violet.
A white
one. There's a white
There's
one.
a white one.
Yeah.
And they're variegated leaf, green leaf.
Yeah, and it is a excellent ground cover. It covers the ground.
It does its job.
And will grow even underneath when these oak leaf hydrangeas are leafed out. It's very shady back there, but it's still a thick ground cover keeping other things out. We've had the variegated ones because they grow more slowly, which is a boon sometimes because this stuff can really take off. But they've reverted on us to all green, and so we have to watch them and take out the all green pieces so they don't get carried away with themselves.
It can choke things out. It is a woody and it is an evergreen.
And it is an invasive. If you're living next to a woodland, if you're near a park, if you're near any kind of natural areas, it wouldn't be the ground cover that I would put into your yard.
No.
This is in a horticulturalist at a botanical garden. It's her backyard, and she grew myrtle and hostas to be the easiest thing that she could put back there. But she's not, although it might look like a woodland back there, it's just another 3 backyards that meet back there underneath trees. So it's a good evergreen ground cover.
Okay, great. We are approaching the list that we have, although we'll have some follow-up questions for sure. Sona is interested in dwarf astilbe.
Oh, I like dwarf astilbe.
One of our favorites.
Yeah, I love dwarf
Yeah.
The
astilbe.
pumula, Chinensis pumula, very lovely, very, very well behaved. Is a great ground cover, great edger.
And that's dwarf astilbe there.
Right there.
And it's low and it's late to bloom, and unlike the other astilbes, it can handle drought.
It does very well in dry.
The other astilbe, so that's as tall as it gets. You're looking at a September picture. The stems come up to maybe 18 inches. What there is that one, I don't know if it's a cross or a variety, the Superba, Cheryl, is
Oh,
really,
that's right. That's right. There
Yeah.
is Superba.
I
Yeah.
saw it at Cornell. It's easily another half a foot or
Or a
more
foot
higher,
taller, yeah.
foot taller.
but Superba doesn't seem to, it must be a hybrid because it doesn't cover the ground like
And
the Chinensis pumila, this one does.
No, and the flowers, that is.
Correct.
Yeah, so, and we like it because the deer don't get to it so much. So there's a planting we've just started as a ground cover in the woods here. And there's a piece in one of those tough places underneath the deck.
Windstone.
Yeah, but it doesn't let things get into it. There it is. Those leaves are not its brown leaves. It's just, there it is spreading into stones and underneath the deck. Very low, very late to bloom, what, August before it blooms each year. And the deer don't eat it, which is a big plus on our lists. Okay,
Excellent. So we have one more from your list, and then we have 3 that people have asked out that are not on the list. Will that work?
sure,
Yeah.
that sounds great.
Okay, great. So Gretchen is curious about creeping Jenny and maybe on a theme with the myrtle. She says it does seem to be a nuisance after a while. So could we talk about creeping Jenny being used in manageable ways?
Golden wax. Is it a nuisance? It can be a nuisance. This is the Lysimachia nummularia aurea, the golden form of creeping Jenny. And yes, it can be. Our first experience with it as a major ground cover is at a friend's house. They moved in, Joan Rogers, and their property drops down to a lower level, and that runs alongside a creek. And this stuff is the ground cover down there, along with we introduced the Stilby with it, and it's just, it does much better than the grass. The grass never gets a chance back there. We put it in our own yard as a rain garden plant, and found that it kept turning to all green and trying to go every place we didn't want it to go. So we took it out. So it can be like most ground covers. I seem to be out of control. Can you click for me?
Every ground cover at a time becomes a thug, it seems like, to some
Right.
people.
It is a short plant, but it can cover those stones by just lapping over them repeatedly with its branches laying on the ground. It does bloom yellow when it's in bloom. So, and the yellow blooms don't show up with the golden form.
No.
You can't tell what's going on out there. But yes, it can get to be a huge area, but then that's a ground cover. Here it
I
is.
would say it does really nicely in I know we're not talking about containers, but if you want to use it as a trailer in a container planting, it's perfect for that too.
It almost looks like the mother lode juniper. It has that.
That's gorgeous.
Look. That's when it looks its best, right there.
So it is a plant that has a good potential as a ground cover, but you have to let it have its head. Okay.
All right. For the sake of time, maybe a quick one for Susan. The ladies' mantle, both the regular and the dwarf, do they have the same requirements? And are they? Well, they are a good choice. But anything to say quickly about either or both of the ladies' mantles?
There are a bunch of smaller ladies' mantles. This is the Alchemilla mollis, the standard ladies' mantle. When it's in bloom, it's 2 feet tall, and then the stems lay down.
Yeah, so that the seeds go out.
Right, and they look good even after they're blooming as it goes there. And then there's the seedlings coming
That's
up.
That's all ladies'
mantle.
mantle.
And that's our intent there, is to have that area covered with ladies' mantle and sedum. And let the dwarf pine grow on top of it. The little ones are littler, and so they can get covered over by taller plants more easily. But in our experience, we've been growing them all in the same place. Any of the like Alchemilla, I'm trying to remember the names of the other ladies' mantles.
Erythropoda.
Erythropoda, yeah, that's the first one.
Yeah, that's one of them.
They're pretty much the same cultural requirements, aren't they, Cheryl?
Yes, they are. They are. They like a little bit of moisture. They like a little bit of shade, a respite from hot sun. So they do really well in the part shade. I like the fact that when it rains in the center of the leaf, it looks like little diamonds are captured.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And holding its own with the geranium there. Okay, we'll go.
So if we could do a really quick speed round, because we have 3 questions that I think I could not find them on the list. So you can just kind of give a yay or nay on this. Franco is curious about Arctostaphylos. Am I saying that right?
Arctostaphylos.
Bearberry, yeah.
Yeah, bearberry.
I'm familiar with bearberry as something that grows on the dunes,
Mhm.
on sandy exposed areas, or at the edge of the woods. And it's like the plant that can grow anywhere, very flat on the ground, little reddish, pinkish berries on it once a year. What do you grow very much of that, Cheryl?
We did, because out here there's one that was Massachusetts hybrid, so very popular that way. I know up in Lansing, there's one at Michigan State that has been there for many years, has bred nicely.
Yeah.
Very drought tolerant.
It's an evergreen, which is
Yep,
a plus.
an evergreen.
Very flat to the ground. But I haven't used it very much because I got into that whole bit of, first I learned that it was a woodland plant and it liked acid. I said, okay, well, I'm not sure I've got that condition. Then I walk out onto the dunes in Cape Cod and go, wait a minute, this is bearberry everywhere out here. Fighting it out with the dune grass. So I decided I don't really know what this plant likes, and I have not played with it very much.
It is deer resistant. It's one of the ones that's deer resistant.
That's good.
Yeah, native. So sure, it's good.
Okay. All right.
I don't think you can walk on it particularly, even though you found it out in the dunes. I don't think it's something that you want to really.
Yeah, not a lot of traffic, not a lot of foot traffic out there.
Right.
Yeah. It's fighting it out with the poison ivy. Bathers don't want to walk through the poison ivy.
No.
They stay on the path. Okay, Sonia, what are the other ones?
Okay, all right. What about Sesleria autumnalis? Sesleria, Sesleria, Sesleria.
I don't know this plant.
It's a grass. It's a grass.
Oh, Sesleria.
Sesleria.
Okay, so that's what's the name of that one? Cordgrass? Okay, or I don't know that grass. I haven't grown that grass.
Okay.
Too many grasses. Go ahead.
Yep. And Pachara aurea, something gold. Pachara, P-A-C-H-E-R-A.
Probably somebody asking about Hacanaploa forest grass.
Best I got is P-A-C-H-E-R-A-A-U-R-E-A.
Nope, sorry.
Sorry, Barbara. Okay.
Sorry. Send us an email. Send us an email, and we'll look for it this week, and we'll put it into the pre-session next week.
Yeah. And a quick follow-up from Carol. Any suggestions where to purchase Bunchberry? Way back from our first conversation from the plant.
Wild types in
Wild
Mason,
types in
Michigan.
I saw it at Telly's last year.
Yep. Arrowhead Alpines in Fowlerville. Let's see, where else?
Yeah.
I have actually seen it at one of the big box stores one time. I remember walking by going, that's bearberry, for crying out loud. So it's out there, but it's a Bunchberry. Yeah, it's out there, but and certainly by mail, order by mail. Eastern Plant Specialties, maybe. Okay.
All right, great. And then just 2 follow-up questions about location, about planting under a Norway maple or under a 7 Sun. Any hot tips there? There's been some discussion in the chat. Myrtle has come up a few times, but yeah, we have Judith and Marilyn have trouble trees that they'd like to get something under.
Under Norway maples, I'd go with geraniums and probably the leatherwood ferns, the Dryopteris. But Norways are tough. They're very greedy trees, and they're allopaths too. They kill a lot of other things. So I've certainly seen bishop's weed growing underneath there, snow on the mountain. Underneath the 7 Sun, we've grown all kinds of things. They're a witch hazel family, and they're not real dense shade under there. We have Serbian bellflowers on our list, and does really nicely underneath there, along with what else is under there? I'm just picturing the garden. What else is growing? Oh, the dwarf grape holly, the creeping grape holly grows well under there. So I think that's probably 2 to start with. Oh, and golden satin grass is growing under there, and so is the Stilby, the dwarf Stilby. So, but underneath the Norway maples, those are a lot tougher.
Okay.
Mulch.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. I think that is about the run of it. But I am sending you all of the the
The
questions
chat,
for
I
notes in
saw-
case you want
I
to follow it up.
Yes, I saw lots of things in there, and I think I probably will follow it up about whether which ajugas grow in the shade and golden bleeding heart. Thank you all for being here today.
Thank you so much.
Because that takes us through native and natural ground covers, and you now have a list and our recommendations of some. There are certainly more. They
Yes,
just keep on going and keep on going.
that's the way it is with plants and stuff. There, you think of one and you think of 5 other ones,
Yeah.
you know, and they just keep growing.
So come back.
I
with
have
a-
to add in plumbago, leadwort. Oh my
Oh.
gosh, great ground cover. It is on your list. You have a great list.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Yeah.
Yes, plumbago is one of our very favorites because it's not there in the spring.
I like that
We-
bulbs
We
could come up.
grow colchicum, the fall crocus through it. We grow all kinds of things through it, and then it just bubbles up and takes off from there. But
And its colors are fabulous in the fall.
yeah. So maybe sometime we'll show you pictures of that one because we had great pictures of that. Next week, we're going to be talking about the traveling gardener, Smoky Mountains. Steve will be traveling and we'll be
traveling.
yeah. And we'll also have our friend Celia Riker is going to be here about traveling by foot in these wild places. So join us next week. We'll see you then. Thank you very much for being there. Thank you so much, Cheryl. Thank you so much, Sonia.
Thank you.
Talk to you
Take
guys.
care, everyone. Hope to see you again soon.
Everybody take care.